According to predictions of the economy through the sharp lens of investors, the past 2 years have seen Vietnam and Indonesia as the two countries in Southeast Asia that are showing the strongest potential. Vietnam's GDP was the equivalent of 8.8 trillion baht in 2020, attracting foreign investment, especially from Japan and the United States. Indonesia was another rapidly advancing country with its population of over 270 million, as well as its abundant resources and energy reserves. In the eyes of many countries, Indonesia's labor market had an attractive investment potential, but with the whole world suffering from the COVID-19 pandemic, the capitals of the two countries no longer attracted worldwide investment interest. Both cities were pulled to a standstill, making the situation difficult to restore. Today, our Spirit of Asia team takes you to the capitals of these two countries, whose GDP have been rising to the top levels of Southeast Asia. So join us as we explore the changes, past, present, and into the future, as experienced by these ASEAN neighbors. Hanoi and Jakata, unlocking downtown. This past June, it was quite easy for our Spirit of Asia team to travel to Hanoi, the capital of Vietnam. There was no need to carry visas and RT-PCR or vaccination certificates. But if we think back to the situation last year, the idea of unrestricted travel would have been unimaginable. During that time, Hanoi was very much like an abandoned city. Ajahn Pacharapong Pubet Puterwat is a Thai who graduated with his doctorate degree in linguistics here in Hanoi just a few days ago. He spent 5 years studying towards his degree. During that period, he went back and forth between Thailand and Vietnam because part of his research had to be conducted in Thailand. But when the COVID-19 pandemic took over, he experienced additional complications in his studies. The completion of his degree ended up being delayed by 1 year.
ตอนนั้นสายการบินก็ยกเลิกใครมีธุระจำเป็นก็รู้สึกว่าหลังจากล็อกดาวน์หนักๆตอนนั้นก็หลายเดือนอยู่นะกว่าจะมีเที่ยวบินกลับมาบินอีกครั้งหนึ่งก็จะเป็นเที่ยวบินแบบแสดงความจำนงของสถานทูตที่เขาจะร่วมลงชื่อว่าใครจะเดินทางกลับซึ่งเดือนหนึ่งมันก็จะมีแค่เที่ยวบินเดียวครับช่วงนั้นแล้วก็จะมีช่วงหลังมาก็จะจากฮานอยเนี่ยก็จะเนื่องจากว่าคนไทยอยู่ในฮานอยมันน้อยเขาก็ตอนหลังก็เลยย้ายไปบินจากโฮจิมินห์กลับไปที่กรุงเทพแทนครับพอเริ่มคลี่คลายขึ้นนิดนึงนะแต่ว่าส่วนใหญ่ก็ยังบินที่นั่นเป็นหลักอยู่ตอนนั้นช่วงไหนคะที่เปลี่ยนจากโฮจิมินห์ไปกรุงเทพตั้งแต่กลางปี63ประมาณเดือนกรกฎาครับกลางเดือนกรกฎาเป็นต้นไปจนเพิ่งมาเปิดตอนปลายปี64ต้นปี65นี่เองครับ
During the height of the pandemic, Thai people living abroad were faced with the difficulties that came with living in a foreign country. Locals of those countries also suffered hardships. The conditions we see now in Hanoi are entirely different from this time last year.
ช่วงระบาดหนักที่สุดก็คือเขตนี้ก็คือเขตเล็กๆเฟืองเขาเรียกว่าอะไรต้มเนี่ยเฟืองเขตก็เขตเหมือนกันเขตนี้ก็ปิดล้อมไปออกข้างนอกไม่ได้ก็เดินในเขตนี้แป๊บหนึ่งก็ประมาณ6 นาทีก็จบแล้วก็กลับก็แต่จริงๆเนี่ยก็ไม่มีใครอยากเดินนะกลัวทุกคนก็ต้องกลัวอยู่เพราะว่า ช่วงนั้นยังไม่ได้ฉีดยาเยอะบางคนก็กลัวอยู่เหมือนที่เราได้ข่าวที่โฮจิมินห์ซิตี้นี้มีคนเสียชีวิตหลายพันคนแล้วบอกเหงาไหมก็เหงาแต่ก็สนุกไหมก็สนุกครับก็อยู่กับครอบครัวทั้ง4 คนครอบครัวผมมี4 คนแฟนกับลูกกับก็ดูแลกันตลอดแต่ก็ห่วงใยให้เด็กเขามีปัญหาอะไรในทางจิตใจก็คุยกับเขาเล่นกับเขาแล้วก็พยายามทำยังไงให้เขาบอกว่าเหงามากคุณพ่อบอกว่าพยายามข้างนอกก็คนตายเสียชีวิตก็มีอยู่นะต้องระวังนะอยู่ที่นี่เนี่ยไม่กี่วันน่าจะดีขึ้นแล้วก็ปลุกกำลังใจให้เขา
เราต้องดูแลจิตใจ
ใช่ครับผมใช่สำคัญมากครับ
We tend to forget that mental and emotional health are just as important as physical health, except that thoughts and feelings cannot be seen or touched. Children are naturally more fragile than adults, and therefore we need to devote our whole attention to the mental and emotional well-being of children.
I spend most of my time, like every other student, online studying through Microsoft Teams or Zoom. Yes, I do think that the lack of training, of real-life contact training that I have suffered from will really affect the way I study in the future. But in contrast, some of my skills have improved a lot, like Microsoft Excel, Word, or like online stuff.
And can you tell about your sister education?
Yes, I believe that between my 2 brothers, my sister is the one who is more severely affected, because at the age of 8 to 9 is when children need to contact with a lot of people. They need to learn about social life. They need to talk more to learn how to make friends.
Guang has a son who is in his first year at university. His daughter just turned 8, which is an age in which meeting friends is a fun thing to do and suitable for children her age. Guang understands that his child is lonely, but it's the job of the parents to explain to children, as best they can, concerning the current events, and that these conditions are only temporary. All this will pass, and things will surely get better with time.
แล้วพี่ก่อนครอบครัวก็ติดโควิดด้วยใช่ไหมคะอยากทราบว่าตอนนั้นเป็นยังไงบ้าง
ใช่จุดที่โควิดก็คือที่ผมติดได้ฉีดได้3 เข็มแล้วก็ไม่ต้องห่วงอะไรเพราะอยู่ในบ้านก็ไม่มีใครห่วงใยอะไรก็เด็กก็เป็นไข้2 วันก็หายแต่เราก็เหมือนคนไอธรรมดาจามอะไรก็มีอะไรเบาๆแล้วเหมือนคนไทยเขาบอกเหมือนเป็นลมผ่านมาแล้วก็ไม่มีอะไรแต่ก็ห่วงใยก็คือเขาบอกว่าหลังโควิดมีปัญหาอะไรไหมเราต้องพิสูจน์ไม่ได้แต่ก็ปกติก็หลังโควิดแล้วก็บางทีก็หายใจสะดวกผมไม่มีปัญหาก็แข็งแรงกว่าเพราะว่าอยู่ในบ้านกินเยอะกว่ากลัวมันมีอะไรเกี่ยวกับสุขภาพเราก็กินเยอะกว่าแล้วก็
Nutrition is an important part of healthcare, especially with fitness centers and public parks closing down, depriving people of the exercise that they would normally get. Food then becomes one of the few avenues left for looking after one's health. But now that we can go outside again, many public parks have opened to welcome back joggers. At Wan Giam Lake in the historical center of Hanoi, there is so much more cheer on people's faces now that they can return to life outside the home. Not far from Wan Giam Lake is one of Vietnam's famous food locations. The deliciousness and diversity of the food here previously attracted floods of tourists, but over the period of the last 2 years, the pandemic has left the streets empty and lonely.
ลูกโค Covid thì mình đâu có được mở đâu đúng không em? Nếu mà
bán đang về thôi.
ช่วง Covid ก็ขายกลับบ้านเอากลับบ้านนะขายxongครับผมcái lúc đấy thì em thấy ở phố là như thế nào Covid ấy.
Tanh anh ơi, tại vì là
วังตังก็คือว่างมาก
ai ý thức mà
ใครๆก็รู้จักอยู่รู้จักให้คนอื่นก็อยู่ที่บ้านlúc mà Covid mình có gửi đến nhà đúng không? Chuyển đến nhà. Thế rồi deliveryถึงบ้านเลยcó gọi điện là em gửi đến luôn. Có thô mà cóส่งไปเลยมีแก๊ปนะแก๊ปฟู้ดนะมีแก๊ปฟู้ดส่งให้
ai đem dán nhá.
phần lớn là gửi Grab em nhỉ Grab ấy.
Thì dịch vụ ấy đặt trên app ấy.
ส่วนมากไม่มีแอปก็คือ Grab Food หรืออะไรมีแอปต่างๆครับพี่hồi Covid thì bây giờ thì đương nhiên bây giờ phải đông hơn khách thì chứ em nhỉ.
Đúng rồi, nhưng mà nó không bằng ngày xưa nữa.
ก็แน่นอนก็ตอนนี้ลูกค้าเยอะแน่นอนแล้วแต่ก็ยังไม่เท่ากับเหมือนตอนที่โควิดนะครับเมื่อเราสัมภาษณ์เยอะตอนนี้ไม่มีใครแต่ก็ดีนะเสียงของแก
The shop opens at 8:30 in the morning and closes at 1 or 2 a.m. Sometimes the shop actually closes at 3 or 4 in the morning due to the consistent streams of customers.
Vâng, cảm ơn. Cảm ơn. Tên rồi, mình bằng đi nào. Cảm ơn. Okay.
The aroma of roast pork invites us to sit on these very short stools to eat. These stools are a famous symbol of the vibrant street food landscape in Vietnam.
Thơm nó không mặn này, nó không phải bị nhạt. Cái lúc Covid thì mình đây có nghỉ hết em nhỉ? Lúc Covid thì mình nghỉ hết.
Thì lúc nào mà cấm không được bán thì là mình phải nghỉ.
Thay chung nghĩa là người ta đến đây chỉ mua về nướng trong nhà, nó sang cặp ban, nó hộp. Sau Tết là mình mở bán lại được rồi em nhỉ? Nắng chặt cụt chi ปิดขายได้นะ
Cái lúc mở dịch thì còn bán còn đắt hàng hơn. Thì nhiều chỗ người ta không được mở.
Strangely, some shops sold well at the height of the pandemic, but when the situation began to normalize, the same shops experienced a reduction in their income due to the customers' wider range of choices. Of course, this is only early days in the opening of the country's borders, so what we are currently seeing is not the full capacity of tourism. We will need to wait a while. The predicted income will surely be better than the figures during the height of COVID-19. For the time being, many traders tell us that Thai tourists have disappeared in great numbers.
Trước 2 năm trước là anh vẫn nói được một số từ tiếng Thái và nói rất nhiều.
Mấy năm
Bút chưa mắc
nhiều thứ tiếng quá nên là bây giờ không nhớ.
กี่ปีแล้วก็ภาษาได้เยอะแต่ตอนนี้ลืม
Như là bây giờ
tiếng Anh còn nhớ không thâu
tiếng Anh này, tiếng Hàn,
เขาพูดได้ภาษาอังกฤษภาษาเกาหลีภาษาโคเรียนะที่ภาษาไทยด้วยฝึกภาษาไทยก่อนอันนี้เท่าไหร่
bao nhiêu tiền thì là mình nói được.
อันนี้เท่าไหร่
Đi 50.000 đồng ครับ
50.000 đồng ครับ
nói được những tiền
ได้ต้น
นับเลขได้ อันนี้เท่าไหร่คะ
đây 40.000
40,000
đi magnet
จะคิดถึงคนไทยไหมคะ
ก็เยอะkhách hàng Thái không em?
có chứ hàng Thái là rất là nhiều
คิดถึงว่าคนไทยมาเที่ยวเยอะ Bây giờ như từ hồi em mở mấy hôm lại đây có nhiều người khách Thái đến đây chưa?
Có đoàn rồi, đoàn đông.
Có mi cúc dễ mà chủ lão không?
Bây giờ bảo là bây giờ khách Thái bảo bây giờ sang là những người bán hàng ở Việt Nam bây giờ không cần đeo khẩu trang nữa. Và bây giờ là Việt Nam không còn bị Covid nữa nên là tự tin cho mọi người đi du lịch là ok.
The same applies to Chinatown in Jakarta, Indonesia. While there are large numbers of customers, most of them are locals. Most of the traders are Indonesians of Chinese ancestry who reside in the community. The Chinatown here is over 300 years old, reminding us of our own Yaowarat Chinatown in Bangkok. Around the gateway area of Glodok Paujolan, we see rows of bajai three-wheelers parked along the sides of the streets. Bato Hal, who has been a bajai driver in the Chinatown area for over 10 years, tells us about his daily income.
Wah, macet total. Macet. Cari duitnya susah.
Satu hari Bapak dapat kurang lebih berapa penumpang?
Ya, nggak pasti sih ya. Yang penting ini kan setoran 60.000 satu hari. Penghasilan paling banyak 150, paling dikit paling 100. Ini hari saya dapat duit cuma 100. Belum beli gas.
100,000 Indonesian rupiah is equivalent to about 240 Thai baht. On average, the passenger fee per trip is around 117 baht or 50,000 rupiah, depending on the distance. The state of the traffic here means that Bato Hal can only do 1 or 2 trips, so his daily income doesn't amount to very much.
Saat COVID kemarin kan, susah cari uang tidak?
Wah ya, selama ada COVID luar biasa. Cari makannya susah banget.
Saat COVID kemarin itu perjalanan macet atau agak kurang?
Lancar, perjalanan lancar, tapi orang kagak mau keluar karena takut COVID.
Jakarta has a population of over 11 million, earning the city a distinct reputation for crowdedness. So we spend most of our time in the car with Rudy, who is our local guide here in Jakarta. Our conversations don't escape the topic of the pandemic.
COVID dimulai dari tahun awal 2019 ya, pertengahan. Sampai 2022 sampai saat ini masih ada, tapi yang menjadi topnya atau ujungnya itu yang paling banyak memakan korban itu di tahun 2020. Itu yang mati itu, yang meninggal itu setiap hari tidak lepas dari kemungkinan besar itu sekitar 500 sampai 1.000 orang meninggal itu di tahun 2020 sampai 2021 itu lebih daripada setiap harinya meninggal karena COVID.
Di Jakarta kan orang kan lumayan banyak. Saat pertama COVID masuk orang di sini takutan tidak?
Ya pada awalnya mereka anggap sepele ya, karena mereka menganggap bahwa COVID itu tidak pernah ada. Tapi setelah jatuh korban yang luar biasa sehingga rumah sakit semua pada penuh, tidak terima lagi pasien. Nah itu di situ baru mereka sadar bahwa COVID itu ada.
Throughout our journey, we see people employed as traffic conductors and organizers at almost every intersection and small street. They sometimes get tips from drivers passing by. This is another job position that has resulted from a society in which people must live alongside intense traffic conditions.
Ya, seperti yang sudah diketahui bahwa Jakarta itu suatu kota besar, tetapi tidak menampung untuk daya tahan transportasinya. Karena transportasi umumnya kurang diminati, walaupun sekarang sudah mulai menjadi habit untuk menggunakan transportasi umum, tapi Jakarta pada umumnya sebelum COVID dan sesudah COVID dan selama pandemi COVID lumayan padat. Dibatasi oleh pemerintah itu jam 6 pagi sampai jam 10 pagi itu ganjil genap. Plat nomornya yang genap boleh jalan melalui jalan tersebut, atau jam 4 sore sampai jam 8 malam itu juga untuk ganjil genap, sehingga dibatasi. Sehingga pada jam-jam tersebut itu hanya mobil-mobil yang berplat tertentu saja yang boleh jalan. Ya, hari ini tanggal ganjil, ya plat nomor ganjil yang bisa melalui jalan tertentu ya, yang jalan besar-besar yang membuat macet itu dibatasi jam-jam tertentu.
Most Jakarta residents spend 1 to 1.5 hours on the roads. Around 70 to 80% of the population has increasingly turned to public transportation, such as buses, Grab, Gojek, and the electric passenger train. This change in habit has relieved some of the burden of the traffic situation. On the TomTom website, Jakarta was placed 46th in the world on the list concerning congestion levels. This means that there has been a great reduction in congestion levels compared to 2019, when Jakarta had a ranking of 10th in the world. During after-work traffic, we spend a long time traveling through Jakarta, headed for Lake Sunter, which is Jakarta's largest lake. A public park surrounds this lake, and many people come here to exercise. We see lone joggers and walking companions. Groups of friends get together to ride jet skis and go wakeboarding. We meet Muhammad Ramadan, who is a jet ski and wakeboard sports person. He spends the late afternoon, which is a period of intense traffic, riding jet skis and wakeboarding with his friends. This is a way for him to release stress after a long day at work.
Bapak sudah sering main di sini?
Sudah ya berapa 3-4 tahun.
Orang yang datang main ski di sini banyak atau tidak?
Lumayan, tergantung dalam apa. Ada orang yang keinginan atau ada juga orang yang mengunjung.
Sunter Lake is a resting place for city dwellers who want to take a break from traffic jams. This is a space for people to take their time to relax both body and mind before going back to face the ball of confusion that is part of their daily routine. Both Hanoi and Jakarta are known for their congestion levels. This means that the impact suffered throughout the pandemic has been especially intense for cities with high levels of air pollution. While the worst of COVID-19 may be behind us, we still need time for recovery and restoration. The current times have taught us the great truth that regardless of the extremity of the problems we are facing, the future will always hold a time in which we can start over with something much, much better.